court here in Nigeria has actually given an order that the union should get back to classroom. But now ASUU is saying it's going to appeal that particular judgment. And of course, the parents are also saying that it is a good judgment in the light that many students have been wallowing at home without going back to classroom for the past 7 months. And now looking at this particular judgment and ASUU stance with us this morning on the program, we have Mr. Sumbo Badijoko, of course, is a public affairs analyst to look at all of this with us. It's great to have you back. Good morning.
Thanks for joining us this morning.
Good morning. Thank you for...
All right, let's look at it. The National Industrial Court of Nigeria said the striking lecturers will return to class. What is your take on it?
Well, it's a welcome development as far as I'm concerned, because this current strike has lingered for too long. And I wish ASUU did not allow the whole thing to get to this level. You know, when the government made the last proposal of salary increment and that, I expected that to have solved the problem.
Yeah, but ASUU said the proposal was not good enough in the sense that what they were offering was too...
They are not being
was
realistic.
Nothing compared to what...
It's just not being realistic. 35% for professors and 25.5% for the other university staff is fair enough based on the current realities and of the what is it called now, the finances of the government. So, and that is not even part of what the strike was about. It's just a way of just pacifying the whole thing. But the contention remains on they wanting the salaries of the months that they have not worked. And of course, wanting magic to be done in terms of the revitalization fund and all of that. Yes, on the part of the government too, they too have not really helped matters by, refusing to grant some demands of ASUU. At least of all the demands, there's only one that I personally, if I'm the president, would never grant, and that's the issue of UTAS. But the others, I expect them to have work their way around it. There are funds that can be, diverted to sort out that emergency early enough before it got to this level. But all those were not done. And of course, now ASUU too became high-handed at some point, wanting to capitalize on the transition that is currently ongoing. Now that has backfired because they've now been accused of being used by the opposition to bring down the government. And of course, that is weighty.
Is that not speculative?
Yeah, that's why I said it's weighty, because they allowed it to get to that level. The government will always look for a way to bully the union. And of course, now when that didn't work, well, there's a last option that they've been reserving ever since. They could have gone to court.
But are we fair enough to ASUU to say that they're just asking for just their welfare? What about the end academic allowances? Does the government needs to be reminded? The revitalization fund for university system, who waits, which responsible government waits for a union to ask first for it to do what it's supposed to do? And now you also look at UTAS, the question of UTAS, still saying that IPPIS, as a matter of fact, is flawed with so much corruption, where you have instances of some names that should not be on that particular payroll are there. And of course, instances of not paying them their due allowances also happen on the IPPIS platform. Now they're saying that UTAS is the best option for them as lecturers who work under the government. Now, should the government wait and be reminded by the striking lecturers of its responsibilities here?
The issue of IPPIS is not an event for this year. The previous strike was about that. It's unfortunate that this current one too, came on that premise. But the issue of revitalization and what have you are something that as far as I know, they are ongoing. Before this resumed the last strike, not this current one, some funds were released, and negotiation continued. Now, when they begin to issue, that's why I said the government too has not helped matters. When they begin to issue notification of strike, before they eventually went on this one, I expect some decisive measure to have been taken by the government. You understand? That's why I said, of all the things, the only one that I seem to have issue with is UTAS versus IPPIS. IPPIS could be modified to cater for the peculiarities of ASUU. Not that you will condemn it. It's a slap on the government and bring one UTAS. So when the government started saying that UTAS failed integrity test, I was just laughing because it's not going to pass, because it's going to be subjected to that test that will be conducted by another government agent.
By just the academicians. It's not going to be a universal platform. They are saying that they want to be paid.
It will still be attached to the same federation account.
But just for the lecturers, not for the whole civil servant.
It will still be managed by the Accountant General's office, the Ministry of Finance. It's not going to. That means they would have to be working using it, and they wanted a unified payment platform. That's why I said whatever is the peculiarity with ASUU can't be incorporated into IPs. Not that you will say IPs for others, UTAS for university lecturers. What if other unions, and even the UTAS now, does not cater for other university bodies like SANU and NASU? That's why they were also trying to manufacture their own payment platform. Now we also have some key critical sectors, especially the revenue generating agencies, MDAs. What if they now decide, okay, CBN will have its own platform, the customs will have its own platform, FIRS will have its own platform. So that is what is likely to lead to, and that's what the government is trying to avoid by saying, come, let us look at this, your UTAS thing again. We can blend these two to break, we can incorporate some content in UTAS to make IPs more formidable, to be able to cater for all. If the issue of corruption and shortchanging is the bone of contention, that can be addressed. But it is not enough to now say you are rejecting it based on those peculiarities. That's why I'm saying that no employee dictates to the employers how he or she should be paid.
But really, is this judgment fair enough for ASUU? Would you say that this judgment in such
the judgment is not fair? It's not fair on ASUU.
Okay.
It is not fair on ASUU because it's like now it's a way of coercion on the part of the government, trying to coerce ASUU back to resuming work. But ASUU caused it. This thing would have been resolved
should have been independent of the government.
It shouldn't have. Of course, the government had the option of going to court earlier, but they didn't use it. You understand? The national court have been there all along.
Determined what the court judgment should be.
No.
Okay.
There is a labor law that the court will look at. By virtue of the content or the provisions of that law, there is no way the government will not have this kind of judgment. And they have not even, the court is still pending, but what was issued by the court is an injunction that, okay, return back to status quo, pending the determination. Yes. And that's now, ASUU also has a right to go fight for a stay of execution, as the lawyers will say. Okay, that we are also filing that this so-called injunction not be implemented too.
They are appealing it.
But Ngige is saying that the vice chancellors are going to be ordered to open universities. Do you see that happening?
Well, that is not going to happen. We cannot order the vice chancellors to. In fact, they are not even responsible to him. They are responsible to the Minister of Education. So it's not his call. So Ngige should not, and that's why ASUU now seems to be putting the whole blame on the neck of Ngige, because he was the one that.
Yeah, but do you think that's justifiable?
Well, he's the Minister of Labour. He is to play the arbiter role, and of course, when mediation fails, litigation will be the next option, and that's why he has taken that. Because he's been mediating all along, trying to use alternative means to reconcile the conflict. But when the mediation seems not to be working, you go to the litigation level, and that is why he has proceeded to the court. But now the ASUU is saying, well, there are some understanding that is being reached, which the foreign trip of the president is delaying.
Yeah.
Maybe when he returns back by the weekend, we will have a better understanding. Of course, the case can always be withdrawn from the court.
Because we've gotten to this point before, that ASUU was saying that, of course, the president was out of the country at the time, so I think he went to Cote d'Ivoire, or he went to one of these African countries. Yeah. And they said, I mean, they made certain proposals waiting for the government, I mean, the president to come, and all that was left was just for him to sign, and that was it. And that was the end of it. The next thing we heard was that, the strike was still on.
That was the Nimi-Briggs agreement. Looking at that agreement, there was no way the government will agree to it at that time, because it's the financial implication is somehow.
Yeah, but do you see this particular one making any headway?
Well, we are not yet aware of one thing, the details of all these agreements seems to be classified between the government and ASUU, and that's why people don't really know where to come in as regards, understanding the issue. You understand? And except ASUU, when you tell us, they will just be referring to the agreement.
But we don't know the details of
only the highlights we understand, and half of the highlights concerns their welfare and remuneration. Why half focuses on, concern the entire university system? And each time they go on strike, it has always been on the other half. But they use the balance as a bait to get what they are asking for in the part that concerns them. You understand? And in the end, when two elephants fight,
it's always the grass that suffers.
And the grass in this case are the students.
Now, because of what you said, the court also looked at that as a major fact in actually determining why ASUU should go back to classroom, because the court looked at it that there's an age factor when you talk about graduation. You want to go into certain areas of job employment. You talk about the military, you talk about the Navy, and now it is streamlined based on age. Even on NYSC, there are certain ages that are not permitted to serve. And now it's like cutting them out because of the prolonged ASUU strike. And the court is looking at it that since the matter has been brought before it, why then do you proceed on the strike? Why don't you go back to classroom? Why we stop this out? Is that not reasonable enough for ASUU to actually take a step back and actually come back and discuss and say, since we're in court, we could actually be kept under the cover or the refuge of the court and go back to classroom pending when the merit or the substantive suit will be looked at here?
That's why I said it's unfortunate that ASUU dragged this thing to this level. The government has been asking for that for the past 3 months. Subtract 3 from 7. That means the strike would have just been for 4 months. That we are still talking. Go back to work. Consider the student, but no, they are not going to do that because the last time they did so, the government rescinded on their own part. They didn't fulfill it. Exactly, that's why ASUU kept. That's what they keep saying. But this time around, people had intervened. The labor movement had joined in this time. NANS is protesting, which is enough ground to give the government much pressure. So I personally had expected that, well, now that you are enjoying solidarity from people, you should have resumed. Because people would now be carried along. They will be monitoring what the government would do. Should have suspended the strike. It was a warning strike before it became an indefinite strike. So when they say a warning strike, you are supposed to end that one.
Mr. Sumbo, let's also look at the antecedents of the government when it comes to honoring agreements. Don't you think that's exactly what ASUU was trying
when you want to go to
avoid?
That,
because
they've said that in the past. Blaming this Buhari administration.
Yeah, but that's the administration they're dealing with right now.
The question I expect is why. The initial agreement, which they are still leveraging on, was 2009. As of 2009, Yar'Adua was still the president. Yeah, he was not fit and all that, but he was still the president. He died in 2010. Jonathan became the substantive president. Why was that agreement not honored? Buhari came in 2015. 2010 and 15 is 5 good years. You understand? And as at this time, funding was not an excuse. It was just a case of politics and nonchalant attitude on the part of that administration. But government is continuum. Exactly. They inherited it. Exactly. Unfortunately, when they are going to be coming, they said, come. That was what the government first presented to us, so that come. Let us be realistic here. When this agreement was signed, the government was buoyant enough. But for whatever reasons best known to that government, they could not implement it. But now that you are saying we should implement this thing, but we are not as buoyant as that government, can we look at these things and renegotiate some of them? That was what made the initial strike to be that lengthy. And that is what they are still contesting now. Okay, fine. The revitalization aspect also seems to have mellowed down. But they are looking at, okay, the pounds that concerns their hand allowances and other remuneration. That's the bone of contention. But this one that is ongoing now started on the premise of UTAS versus IPPIS. It was when government was not going to accept UTAS at all costs that they incorporated that agreement into it, because that has always been what they use as a base to getting the government to dance to their tune. So that's the thing. So in the case of this, you look at this for the whole thing. In fact, we were discussing in one forum, and somebody said, if you were the government, you will just give them option. Fine, I am your employer. This is what I want. You have two options: comply with it or get out of the system. There are people that are ready to come in. Say, well, that may be a little bit harsh.
Let's just open the phone lines.
That may be a little bit harsh.
To actually call into the program this morning. The numbers are right on the screen. Do remember you have to turn down the audio level of your TV set, or you move away from it. Let's have this caller. Hello, good morning, please.
Good morning.
Good morning. What's the name and where you calling us from?
This is Mr. Daniel calling from Abuja.
All right, please go ahead, Mr. Daniel.
Please, I want to really know, are we actually ready to make this country to move forward? Or shifting blame to another person? Let me just ask your person on the studio, in the studio.
Our guest, our resource person.
Your guest, sorry. That you said that, let me use that the physical aspect of it in the way that you as a father, and you have a son, you left your son for your brother, and your son came complaining to you that he has not been eating since 2 days now. Will you continue and say that, why didn't you feed him? Why didn't you feed him? What will you first do? Feed him for letting him have that strength. You cannot go back and ask, why didn't you feed my son? We should stop blaming game on each other and let's make this country to move forward. This government, this and this. No, it is wrong. Let's just look for a way to move forward. If ASUU is complaining about this, look at ASUU. This government has promised ASUU one after the other with one thing or the other, and they refuse to answer them. Won't they continue with that? And you are not blaming them. Is it their fault? It's not everybody's fault. It's the government's fault. We have money. It's because they have money. Please, we should stop complaining and let's make this country move forward. Look at the people complaining, going to another country. Why are they going? I could remember them far back 80 something to 90. Other countries, neighboring countries were coming to Africa to school, coming to Nigeria to school. Now Nigeria is the one going outside to school now. Why is it like that? Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. That's Daniel from Abuja for calling into the program this morning. Now, he asked, he said, why trading blames for ring sounds? We keep shifting the goals.
We have to just present the issue and you trace it from its origin. You trace it from its origin. And it's not a matter of blaming. We can still ask that question. You understand? And it's not that this, what is it called? The government is not saying they are not going to do it. Of course, why are they engaging us in the negotiation if they are not ready to do something about it?
All right, we have another person here. Hello, good morning, please.
Good morning.
Good morning. What's the name and where are you calling us from?
My name is Dr. Michael. Can you hear me?
Yes,
we can hear you.
All right. I've been enjoying your program, and I must commend you guys for the job well done.
Thank you so much.
Please, where are you calling from?
Okay, I'm calling from Delta State.
All right,
Okay.
please go ahead.
Okay.
Like the last caller said, instead of trying to find fault here and there, who signed the agreement and who didn't sign the agreement, I feel that what ASUU is fighting for is for the good of the masses, the good of the students in particular. Now look at the current trend. The political elites, their children, where are they? Where do they graduate from? If our system is working, if our facilities are in order, why are they not schooling here? They take their children abroad and they make the policies to suffer. What they are asking for, aside from the the salary increment and all that. Have you taken it through? Have you gone to any of these institutions, these public institutions? Have you had time to go and see how infrastructures are decaying? Nothing's happening. Our investment are looking at primary schools now. It's appalling. We're all asking for the way out. The government has. I watched the program yesterday where the House of Rep intervened. You see the nonchalantness of some of these government officials. It's annoying because their children are not here. They don't do it again. Also can go to there as far as they are concerned. That is not the way we should go. We are looking for solutions here. People are, my brother has been at home for more than 7 months doing nothing. I mean, he should have related a long time ago, but now nothing's happening. Let us look at the issues and look for solutions and stop blaming ASUU or stop blaming. We are looking for solutions here and to address this issue once and for all. If our system is good, why are children not schooling here? Why are they not here? Why are they taking our kids abroad? They'll call us social media and show us how their kids are graduating. Are we fools? We are all Nigerians. How much is the senator earning? I'm very, very emotional about this, honestly. Take care.
All right, thank you so much for calling into the program from Delta States there. Now, it appears that Nigerians are saying the same thing. We have 2 callers now saying that there must be a solution, and we mustn't blame anyone, that ASUU is right, asking for its right here. As a matter of fact.
No, but that is not disputable. But at the same time, we have to be realistic. Some of these things that are in the agreement or being demanded for are not something that can be done overnight. There are some that are ongoing. But what people are not looking at is what led to this current strike. What is it about? What was the contention?
2009 agreement.
Not. It is Utah's.
That for too long.
This current strike started with Utah's issue.
Yeah, but the backlog of
it was when the Utah's issue was not going, government was not going to look into that direction, that was resurrected and brought
all right,
back.
I guess we have another caller here too. Good morning, please.
Good morning.
Your name and where you calling from?
I'm Ibrahim Yunusa calling from Okari, Taraba State.
Okay, please go ahead.
All right. I want to make my own contribution on the court order on the ASUU call of the strike. From my own point of view, both ASUU and federal government have to share ground for the interest of the nation. Mm-hmm. The ASUU demand, which we all know is very high, and the government has to pay a little bit of their demands. They have to pay for the interest of the nation to move forward. So I really enjoyed the court order yesterday that ASUU should go back to class because you can see the rate of insecurity in the country when students are at home, it also aggravates and contributes a lot. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Ibrahim, for calling into the program. Yes, now let's look at the fact that Nance is also saying that many students are now pregnant. Some have become mechanics, automobile technician. Now, and many of them were on the streets protesting in Lagos State. And these are people who are supposed to be future leaders, building the future of the country. Now, they are in a way that they don't want to see themselves. Instead of being productive on their field, imagine somebody going into automobile technician. Possibly, maybe that person is a medicine student or a pharmacist, trying to become a pharmacist. Now, you could see how much quackery we'll have in the system and how much more people are not being defined by what they want. Now, how would on earth will a government sit down and allow this to happen? Yes, we can see their excesses within some of the striking lecturers. They should have been able to shift ground to a level. But now, any government, like one of the callers asked, why are they having their children school abroad and graduate if our schooling system here is working? If you look at what Nance is saying, are they not pointing to the fact that these two bodies need to call themselves to order?
Now, we are saying that government should give them everything. Who compensates the students? Because we are not talking about them. We are only saying they are protesting. And what has become of them? Who will compensate them? Can ASUU compensate them? These are things, and that's why we are saying that why this agreement comes from. Consider them if truly you love them. And we say people school abroad. I know ASUU lecturers who have children abroad too. some of them have in private universities that this strike is not affecting. So if truly they too are having their own children at home, on the majority side, the strike would have been called off since. But their own children too are not affected. Let's just be sincere. But how did we get to all of them? How did we get to all of this? You know, it's a problem that has its origin way back. It's just manifesting in form of ASUU strike now, because over the years we've placed too much emphasis on university education, and our educational system is so channeled and fashioned around the university degree. Nobody talks about the technical lines. The society is not even designed in such a way to absorb these people. That is why we have problem. Meanwhile, the major problem that should be concerning the government, we are even downplaying it. We talk of out-of-school children. Are they university children? They are children of primary school and secondary school age, not university age students. Those are the ones that we are not even concerned about. And if you go to the primary and secondary that are more of a state government affair, look at the deplorable state of those buildings. And we keep moving. Some states are doing free education, pushing on half-baked products into the university system because we have overemphasized university certificates.
Yeah, but we're supposed to solve this problem.
I'm going to. That's what I'm saying. It's something that we need to look at the whole educational system holistically, so that the pressure that the lecturers are facing, they are not supposed to be facing it. You understand? You have a department that is having just a facility that cannot accommodate more than 150 students. You now, because of emphasis and pressure on the university education, admit 500 students into that department. And you have not increased the number of lecturers. You are, to the extent that PhD degree is becoming worthless in Nigeria now. That is the extent at which we have so-called bastardized the university system, because everybody is looking into that direction. And we are not concerned.
Because of our time is fast spent. Now we've identified the problems. Now, what is the solution to all of this? Is it in a good way for any sitting government
now, the solution,
allow its educational sector to be shut down?
The real solution appears to be very funny. But in the long run, it's not something that can be done now because of the peculiarity of the thing. But the long-term solution is full autonomy to the university system.
How would that work?
It's going to work. It would definitely work. One, university education is not meant for everybody. If it is meant for everybody, every American will be a university graduate. At least those are advanced countries. We need to focus on putting our system in place to accommodate every human being based on their gifts, talents, and potentials. You understand? That is the way forward. Now, let the university sort itself out. Whatever money that government is using should be diverted to developmental program and scholarship schemes for those who could not afford university, because it will make it to be high. But the money will now be used to subsidize for indigent students.
But how many of them will have access to such
They will definitely have access.
Scholarships?
It will definitely have. That means we will now be pushing those who deserve to be in the university system into the university system. Not everybody that will graduate and you'll be asking questions, but you went to university. That's the situation that we have now. We need to really, and when you have that, there are companies, investors they will go for the best and leave the rest. Where would the rest now be? Those are the ones that populate the unemployment figures that we have out there. And it's because most of them are supposed to have gone into technical line, but the government need to do a lot. Make the environment enabling. You fix power, put other infrastructure in place to create job, to allow individuals to develop their skills and talents.
What do we do? That's a long term.
That's why I said that is the way forward. In the short term, they have to look for funds to just settle ASUU and let them go back to school. Why they begin aggressive development, massive funding into the education system. Not just the university.
So what happens to that 7 months?
Exactly. I was going to ask that question. So what happens to the 7 months that have been lost?
Well, ASUU will have to face the reality. They can't force the government to pay them. They will have to discuss and agree. because they have not worked for those months. That's
All right,
the truth, and
let's take
that's
this
what
as
the
our
law
last
says.
caller because
They
we
have
have
to
another
just
guest. Sorry, Mr.
agree
Sumbo.
on how